I was a brand new pilot right out of flight school. It was my first assignment. I joined in 1970, went to Vietnam in 1971 after basic training, flight school, and then a Cobra transition. So my aircraft on arrival in Vietnam was the Cobra gunship, and that's what I flew for my first tour. As a gunship, we had a very narrow scope. We only supported ongoing combat operations. So if the bullets weren't flying, they didn't call us out. So we pretty much went into the combat situations on a daily basis, mission by mission, and we had about 4 different mission protocols that we rotated through. One would be combat assault support, where the Hueys were bringing in troops or picking them up, and we would escort them in and take the fire, put ourselves in between them and the ground fire, and then do away with the guys on the ground as well as we could. Then we had a standby where we had aircraft ready to go. We were in a waiting room with our gear on, and we would be in the air in a minute from the time that they called. And that was our ready response for any units that became engaged in contact and were having problems dealing with their situation. We always had aircraft ready to launch and go to their rescue and support them. A mission that was called CCN, Command and Control North, which was a special ops support type mission where, and it was usually really far away and really over a long area that was uncontrolled by us. So when you went on those missions, you took all your stash of treats and goodies and everything you would need if you had to spend a month walking back to base, because we were the rescue. We were going to rescue somebody who was stuck out there, so anyway, that was CCN. That was the spooky guys, the special forces, special operators that would go out as a small team and operate behind the lines to disrupt the enemies or gain intelligence and that kind of stuff. So we would support those guys on CCN missions. Then we had what was called pink teams, a Cobra and a Little Bird, an OH-6. They would fly around at treetop level looking for signs of enemy campsites, trash, so on and so forth. And we would fly about 1,500 feet above them, following them around, and they would try to find bad guys, and when they did, then they would break off and call us a clock position. Bad guys 3 o'clock, they'd start flying away, and we'd start laying munitions down to eliminate the bad guys. When it first came out, they called it the Huey Cobra, because basically a significant part of the airframe was a modified Huey. They turned it into a gunship, which, for those people who know, the Cobra was slim-lined. It was barely 3 feet wide, just wide enough for a one-person cockpit. Pilot sat in the back, and the gunner sat in the front. So it was a tandem seating, and so it's 3 foot wide. So you have a very narrow target when you're pointing at the bad guys. They had a very small target to shoot at, but it was actually a little bit larger than the Huey in terms of length and height, but it was much more narrow. But so originally it was called a Huey Cobra, then it became basically Cobra. So it came from the Huey line, but it was the gunship only. That was its role. It had no other purpose. Couldn't carry anybody. we didn't. A couple of times we did extract people If the Hueys couldn't get to them, or if there's a pair of Cobras and a Cobra got shot down, the other Cobra could land and they would get on the stub wings on the outside of the Cobra where the rocket pods were, and they would lock onto the rocket pods and ride on the outside of the Cobra to bring them back. Sometimes that was better than spending the night in the bush with surrounded by the bad guys. Before I could vote or before I could buy a alcoholic drink, I was a officer and a pilot in command of a multi-million-dollar aircraft flying life and death missions on a daily basis. It matures you very fast. You don't have the luxury of wanting safe spaces or worrying about getting your feelings hurt. You become a man real quick in a combat theater, regardless of what age you are.